Welcome to the Answers Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories, you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. Hello and welcome to the Answers Yes podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This is a big week for us. If you heard yesterday's show, I had Sean Whalen on and we were talking about launching the together.I platform for the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. And I know my members are already starting to dip in. They're having some fun with it. We've got this critical task list on there, which is like includes exercise, being grateful, writing down your goals, helping other people. Our goal is to really change people's mentality and get them in a positive momentum. It's those yeses each morning that get them excited for their entire day so that they can be successful. So we're loving the week and we're not going to slow down. Actually, I've got some speaking engagements booked out. If you've been following along, I've done 6 already in the last 45 days, enjoying that. And I can only imagine what the rest of this year is going to look like. But once in a while, I get to be an attendee. And I'm looking at going to an event later this month. And I'm going to let my next guest talk about that after he tells his story. So I've got Robbins on the call today. Ryan, thanks for checking in with us.
Jim, thanks for having me, man. I'm honored. I've been following you for a few years. You do an excellent job with everything that you do and a true patriot.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate that last part, especially because, I know we caught up for a couple minutes before I hit the record button. And what we have, I got my Patriot shirt on today. Matter of fact, we have a lot of similar values, and I know that we believe in the same things, and it's a fight and a struggle to not only run businesses, but be the head of our household in the environment that we're living in right now. And I appreciate you as well. And I know that it takes grit and fortitude to be that person. Would you mind just giving us some overview of who you are and what you've done? And I know a lot of people hate that question, but we want to know who you are. My listeners want to know who you are, and we're going to open up a whole new audience for you.
Yeah, I know you keep these to a half hour, so I won't sit there and talk about myself too long, but I do like to give people an understanding of who I am because it allows people to connect. A lot of times people get on these things. I host a podcast myself, Fireside America, which you will be coming on, Jim. And, people just get into the sale of their business, or they get into talking about their value they want to add to you. And I think it's important to understand who somebody is. So, quick story on me: grew up in Bricktown, New Jersey, very middle-class town. My family was, borderline poverty. My dad drove a truck. My mom worked in a nursing home playing bingo with the old people. Fast forward my life a little bit. I was kicked out of school in 8th grade. I was put into an alternative program. I had ADHD. My heart was amazing. I had a ton of great friends in the neighborhood. I wasn't into drugs. I just couldn't sit still in school. So they diagnosed me. They gave me an IEP. I think it stands for Individual Education Program. And my wife is a special ed teacher, oddly enough. So my mom gave her my IEP when she met me. So Kelly's like, I can take care of this. Fast forward, they put me back into the regular mainstream high school. Again, just never was a fan of school. I could not sit there. I still don't do well with sitting still. If I got to go to church or I got to sit there for a funeral and things that I know I need to do and show up for, I do it, but it's a struggle for me. I'm very antsy. The ADHD is a real thing, and I've just learned to hyper focus it. So junior year of high school, it was my last day. I had an almost physical altercation with a teacher who tried to take my cell phone. I was completely in the wrong. I was full of piss and vinegar, completely disrespectful. I look back on those times and I look at myself and say, man, you really were, if I could say this, an asshole, right?
Yeah, sure.
A young kid. And fast forward, left high school, had a mutual separation. I was working at Lowe's selling flooring. And I raced boats. I was blessed to have a friend, Chris Carbone. His father has now passed, John Carbone, great leader of men in the community. And he said, Chris, if you're not going to college, I'll fund you to race a boat. And if you guys don't know, that's a very expensive sport.
Yeah, it is. More than off-road trophy trucks.
Yeah, and there's not much winnings in it, and there's not much sponsorship in it. But what it did for me is it got me around some wealthy people, and it helped me to start thinking bigger. When you come up, my dad worked his tail off. Great man. But we were very poor. I remember going to, a field trip and someone in line making fun of my fake Reeboks, right? And I remember pulling up to football practice and my dad having the shittiest car there, right? And those things stuck with me, right? My parents were doing the best that they could do, but I never wanted to live that way. I just didn't know it yet. So going back to the boat racing, these guys allowed me to think bigger. So long story short, I was at a boat race. I think it was Maryland or down in Florida. And this gentleman, Dave Rabe, walked up to me and he's like, "You just worked the whole room." And my young kind of tough guy self, I turn over to my buddy, Chris Carbone. I said, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Right? Am I allowed to curse on here, Jim? I apologize.
Yeah, oh yeah, no worries.
So I said, "Who's this dude?" He goes, "Oh, Dave Rabe. He's a finance guy. He crushes it. He's renting a seat." Because in the boat racing world, you can stroke a check for $5,000 and the owner of the boat will throw you in there. I think that's crazy because it's a very hard sport. But Dave was kind of getting his feet underneath him and figuring out, though, I like the sport. Do I want to buy a boat? So he's like, "You just worked the entire room." I said, "Dave, I just said hello to my friends." I said, that's what I do. And fast forward this story along, he's like, "You can come into finance." Meanwhile, again, I was kicked out of high school. I have no GED. I have no high school diploma, obviously, and I could barely read and write. Right. I had the ability to talk to people, but my language and my verbiage was nowhere near what it is today. I've worked extremely hard on that the last 15 years. So he goes, "You can come into my business." I'm like, "What do you mean? I can move millions of dollars and set up estate strategies and do tax planning for pensions for business owners?" He goes, "Absolutely." So he set up a phone in my parents' house, in my bedroom, in their home. It was Vonage at the time. And I just started calling leads for him. So when you leave a firm or you leave an insurance company, you're called an enforced. No, I'm sorry, not enforced. You're called a orphan client. So you're still with the firm, but you don't have an advisor. So I started ripping these phone calls, not knowing anything. And stop me if I'm running on, Jim. I want to just give you guys some color. And I started making $1,000 a week from this guy. He was giving me 10% of what he was doing in commissions on the cases I booked. And I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Fast forward the story some more. I went and got my investment license. I went and got all my insurance licenses. I got some designations within the industry. I've done extremely well. I'm always in the top 100 nationally. The last couple of years, I've been in the top 20. And, this was always a vehicle for me to make money. Again, I was a kid who was kicked out of high school. My parents were extremely poor. I drove the shitty car. Now all of a sudden I'm making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $600,000 and ratcheting up. And I'm going, wow, this is amazing. But I'm not feeling full.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling like I had a purpose, right? I could sit down and have the conversation. And I do think I twist financial planning very differently than most. And not that people don't do it the way that I do, but I don't hear it happen often. And COVID hits. I can't go out and go get a drink with somebody. I can't go get lunch. That was my means of prospecting.
Sure.
And what most people don't realize in my industry, because I'm investment licensed, I have FINRA regulating me. FINRA didn't like social media. FINRA was new. Right? This was new to FINRA. So they're like, "You can't get on and talk about anything." And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So for years, I tried to figure that out. Once COVID hit, I said, I'm just going to do it. So I launched something called a local mentorship program. I have my videographer, which is still with me today, Evan. He crushes it for me on the podcast. We started mentoring 5 kids. And I said, why do I need to have $10 million of income to turn around and help the guy who's making 40 grand in his business and help him make 6 figures? Because I just did it not too long ago, 5-6 years prior to that. I was making 80 grand, 100 grand. I wasn't making what I was making 2 years ago when I launched this whole thing. So helped 3 kids become studs real quick. Trevor West, which is going to be a part of the event. He's hosting a lunch meetup for investors and real estate people Friday, March 31st with Red Suit Realtor. That kid made 300 grand last year. He's on 2 flips. He just had another guy fund his flip, $150,000. He's 27 years old. He'll make over $500,000 this year. Wow. I get chills when I tell you that. Like, you have no idea what I've done for that guy's life. And now what he's done for mine. He's a great friend. And we were sitting there and, hey, if you're helping these people, why don't we just do it as a podcast? And that's what we did. We launched Fireside America. I started bringing in business owners that are in the area. We have brands like Jersey Mike's and Bubba Coos and Hollywood producers, Basil Iwinick. He's done all the John Wick series, and he's done the movie The Town, Sicario. A lot of business owners here that are local to us. They're barely scraping by, right? They only make $200,000-$300,000 a year after all their cost. And then we have some big guys on there. They're doing $100 million a year. And it was all about turning around and helping the next guy in line.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in this country, if we do that more, we won't be in this position that we are. Greed led us to where we are.
Yeah.
Greed by politicians, greed by corporations. That's how China, in my opinion, has infiltrated us, through greed. We don't need to have billions and billions of dollars. And I'm a capitalist. I want you to have the most money you can have. But have a $500 million less and turn around a little earlier and help the next guy in line. And that's what the Fireside is all about. And that's what led us to this event. So I didn't want to ramble on there, but I wanted to give your guests some color. If you have any additional questions, you'll fire them away. I'm an open book.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. The last thing you just said, talking about greed and turning around and helping the others. I gave a speech the other night. I don't know, 50 or 60 adults in the room talking about, being involved in the community. And, these are times where you need to be involved in the community and giving back and bringing your value to the state of affairs. And the next morning, I received a phone call from a woman that owns a production company. She actually does commercials and short 30-minute television shows. And she says, Jim, I want to give my time. I want to produce commercials for people that are running for office that share our same beliefs. I'm like, that's unbelievable. She's like, yeah, however many people you have, send them my way. I'm going to do a segment for them. But what's interesting about that, Ryan, and this is kind of what you're talking about. 1 out of 60 called me. 1 out of 60 was willing to raise their hand and offer something, anything.
Yeah.
Right. And we just don't have enough people turning around, like you said, $500,000 earlier, whatever that looks like in your life, to give a hand. And what a great message. I want to touch on a few more things of your childhood. Then I want to go into your event. That way people can get excited. And if they want to attend, I'm going to encourage it. I'm going to be out there. And I just think it's a great opportunity for them to learn some more values that you and your group are doing. I am a pro trade person or a pro entrepreneur supporter. I don't think that our youth have to go straight to college to find a career and be successful. There's so many other ways. Like you, I wasn't a big fan of school. I probably wasn't as much trouble as you were.
I was a wild man. I'm still a wild man.
I heard you say on another show that you and the school came to a mutual agreement that you were no longer going to attend.
Yeah, it was a mutual agreement because they didn't know if they wanted to keep me. And they're like, I don't know about this guy. And I was like, I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. Ryan, when I'm listening to your story, what it sounds like to me, and you can reaffirm this, you kind of already said it, but you found something that you were good at, and somebody identified that in you. And you came to a mutual agreement with that person. Like, yeah, I know how to work the room. I'm not shy. And he realized, hey, you've got a talent. And I think if people can come together in that way more often, we will see more success because people are utilizing their tools and people are identifying the tools that others have outside of that damn degree.
To be honest with you, Jim, I didn't know I had that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I was a social person and I did, I walk into a party. Hey, Johnny. Hey, Jim. I definitely did that. But I did not. I was insecure. I was kicked out 8th grade to an alternative program.
Mm-hmm.
I'm then kicked out junior year. My friends are all going off to Penn State and Rutgers and going into Manhattan College and doing big things. And I thought, very poorly of myself. I was overweight. I lost 100 pounds at that time after I met David. And since then, Dave has passed away in a boat race. Talk about life full circle, right outside the ocean, a block from where I live. 4 years ago, sadly, left a wife and 3 kids behind. So rest in peace to Dave. I owe that guy my life, man. And I could get kind of choked up talking about it because I missed the guy. But I didn't know I was good, Jim. I didn't. That guy told me I was good.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another gentleman a week later at Lowe's who came back to me and bought the tile from me because of my honesty and what I told him. I actually told him to go up the block, and I clicked something. The big guy upstairs, something clicked in my head. Ryan, that's 2 people in a week that told you should be in some type of sales.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we need to turn around and identify that, and some young kids around us or a young lady around us, be leaders. And sometimes that's, maybe not something that takes care of your pocket at this time. But what I'll tell you is, since I found this purpose, I've made more money than I ever did.
And I think that that's the message there, Ryan, is that if we can turn around and help others, we can help identify those qualities and traits that people have. As leaders, are people that have found a level of success. If we can do more of that, this world will be a better place. Our communities will be better for that.
And we're going to do it. We're going to do it, Jim. I believe in this country, man. You're not going to stop me. I'm going to be one of the biggest guys out there, and I'm going to do it all from the heart, dude. I'm a passionate guy, and I'm not going to stop because I believe in this country. I believe in these young kids. People talk bad on these young kids. Man, what I'm doing on social media, what you're doing on social media, most people your age, Jim, to your credit, like my father-in-law, which I love to death, very smart guy, high up at Amex. He's dealing with the Firesiders of the world and Peloton. He's a very intelligent man, and he doesn't get social media. So I always tell him, you're still working with a beeper while the cell phones came out.
Yeah.
And the younger youth always knows something, and they're learning it faster, and they can teach us something, but they need a little bit of wisdom. They need a little bit of pat on the butt. They need a little bit of tough talk and to be checked sometimes, and we tell them, hey, you're messing around too much. Yeah. And I needed that. And people did that for me, and I'm never going to stop doing that for people.
Your mind starts to wander when you're talking about stories and sharing, backgrounds and stuff like that. I can't tell you how many employees I've plucked off from a Starbucks or from a high-end hotel, or these places where they service you and they think, hey, this is my dead end job. And the reality is they're crushing it, like you in the selling tile and flooring, right? This reminded me, I grabbed a guy from St. Regis Hotel. He was valet, and he knew my name every single time. I drove a bitchin' Ford Raptor that Ford set me up with, and it was all decked out, when I was racing. And he'd always give me like carte blanche. He'd be sitting there with the Lambos and the Ferraris, right? There's my Ford Raptor. But this kid had a talent. And I hired him when I was at Kettle One Vodka as the vice president of the company. And he had a great career with me. When I look at him now, he's running the Western region for Tito's Vodka, which is the #1 selling vodka in the world.
Wow.
Top level executive. And here this guy was plucked off valet at a hotel. There's opportunity for everybody to achieve success.
And that is a great lesson and a great thing you pointed out, Jim. And I need to point that out more because I do the same thing. I recognize the coffee person. I recognize the bartender or the person who's parking cars. If this guy has an ability to communicate with people like I do, and he's confident in himself and what he's doing, wow, this guy can add value to my organization and I can help this individual. And again, that's turning around and helping people. Yeah, did it help Jim at the time to bring that guy on? Absolutely. But that kid made way more money with you than he did parking cars. And now he's obviously making a lot more money than he was parking cars. Now someone's parking his car. Yeah,
exactly. And to be fair to him, I'm not sure. He made a little bit more money working for me. It was a big 6-figure salary, but man, it was crazy. Just sidebar. He said that, people that wanted to show off, they roll up in their Lambo with their girlfriend for the night. They'd drop him a $500 tip just to show off, like, oh, we got to take care of this guy. He's like, once in a while I made a lot of money. That's a rarity. I was thinking about something else is just confidence in what we're doing or knowing that we're in the right zone. I'm just wondering your take on it. I'll use another example of kind of this worker in the marketplace. There was a bartender actually at the same hotel, and she was making 6 figures bartending. And I just, one night I was like, hey, how do you like your job? And are you loving it? She's like, well, this isn't my real gig. I'm going to go back to school one day, this and that. I said, wait a minute. You've been here 3 or 4 years. You're making $100,000 a year. You're in one of the nicest properties in Orange County, California. Like, why wouldn't this be your career?
Yeah.
People get stuck in this mentality that they can't be in a trade as their career, or they can't be in real estate or in finance, at the way that you went without going to college, right? How do we give them the confidence to realize, hey, you're living your dream, you just haven't checked that box yet in your own mind?
Yeah. For me, I think it came over time, because you're always comparing yourself to others, and that's what everybody does. So that, nice woman who was crushing it in that property bartending, she was looking at her cousin and her sister and her friend Julie, and maybe Julie's a doctor, maybe her sister's an attorney, and not everybody's a doctor, not everybody's an attorney. You need the guy who's going to fix your plumbing. You need the guy who's going to fix your, and those guys and girls make a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we all need to be okay. And even myself still to this day, right? Because I'm always achieving that bigger thing. We need to be present and we need to be proud of ourselves. That's something I've worked on for a long time. Be proud of what you're doing and take a look around, because you can go back to college. You can get a job at something you think is good and you make less than you did as that bartender.
Yeah.
So are you happy now? You're right. And I think we need to be proud of ourselves. And I'm proud of what I'm doing. And I wasn't so much proud as I was doing the finance, but I'm really proud nowadays with what we're doing with the podcast and this event.
It's a really good point, and by the way, she can be proud of what she's doing. She doesn't have $100,000 plus in school bills, making 50 grand a year.
That's the other thing,
right?
That's the other thing. It's crazy. College cost is insane. I'm a financial planner. I sit down with families all the time. And, you're seeing people in their 50s still with $40,000, $50,000 of college debt. And that's worse now. These young kids are getting out. I'm sitting down with 30-year-olds who both have a household income of, $250,000, $350,000, but they both have $100,000 in student debt.
Yeah.
So I'm way better off than that couple, right? Because I didn't even finish high school.
Yeah.
I've got in at a real low barrier of entry for capital put out of my pocket. Like, I've been in the green a long time.
Yeah.
And, you come out of college and you buy the house, you have the college debt, and the system gets you on. They just, the money comes in, goes back out, comes back in, comes in, goes back out. And a lot of people should consider going alternative routes instead of college. I'm a big advocate about that. We could spend a whole hour on that conversation.
Yeah, we could and we should. But I think, to your point, it's worth looking into if you're listening to this show. You don't have to go that route. There's so many other alternatives. I went that alternative without school. My brother, who was the CEO of In-N-Out Burger, they're 35 plus years, one of the top chains in the country. He barely made it through high school. And he's happy to tell you that, but he ran a multi-billion-dollar company, privately owned, without his really high school degree. So
you could be the president of the most powerful country in the world without a college degree. That's the United States of America. And obviously Biden didn't go to college. There's no way that man passed.
Dude, we can't even start that conversation.
I know. We'll be totally derailed.
Oh, well, at least he's acknowledging that Trump will probably be our next president. If you didn't see that meme the other day.
I did not see that one yet, but Trump definitely will be our next president. He'll save this.
He says, I was talking to so-and-so about our previous president, Trump, and now me, and he'll probably be our future president. Oh, Lord, help me.
Yeah. Like, what are they doing? Like, they want to just hide him, put him back in the basement.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we can spend another show on that. So, Ryan, you've got this big event coming up. We briefly alluded to it in this conversation. What is the name of the event? Where is it at? And what's going to be happening? We can spend plenty of time on this because I want people to know what you're doing.
Yeah, this is the event, NJ. It's called the event. A lot of times you see people put different twists or they tie it to their brand. Like, no, this is the event.
NJ for New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey. It's going to be in Holmdel, New Jersey, about 30 minutes outside of New York City at an old Bell Labs building. This building is phenomenal. A big real estate group from Chicago took it over 10 years ago, put a bunch of offices on the third and fourth floor, big companies, Guardian, large tech companies. And then on the ground level, it's all retail shops, underneath is a beautiful conference center where we're going to be doing the event in a lecture hall. Mm-hmm. Very unique, very cool venue. And then the night before, which is the meetup, that's going to be in Wall, New Jersey, down by the beach. We're actually going into a wedding barn. It's a wedding venue. I wanted to do something different. I've been to a lot of these conferences for the finance world, obviously. And then I've paid to go to a lot of these events in the personal development and business space. And I just wanted to be different. I wanted to do something that was unique. And this venue, which is a barn on a farm, is going to be awesome. We're going to have a smoker out there, a food truck, a really good high-end food truck, some DJs. We may have a band coming. I can't say it yet. We'll see what happens. But we really wanted to keep this on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. A lot of this stuff is down in Texas or out west, California, Utah, Keaton, Sean, all those guys crushing it. Ryan Stuman down in Texas. And, Andy and them do stuff down in Nashville, but nothing in the Northeast, New York, New Jersey. And we're such a big hub for money.
Yeah.
New York City has every single big business in the world there. Like, why isn't people putting on these types of events? So when I brought this up to Keaton, that was something that was really important to me, is to do an event with him here on the East Coast. And, I don't know what questions you have, but I can go real deep on my whole philosophy of how I want this to run and what I want people to get from it.
Well, I would like you to talk about what you hope people to get from it. You've got a great lineup of guests. I know you've got some wonderful influencers there. Even my friend Mike Fallett is going to be doing the MC. He helped publish my book last year, became an Amazon bestseller, The Freedom to Say Yes. So you've got an eclectic mix of people there, I know, for all the right reasons. So what can people expect to get?
A lot of these things, I think certain people are turned off because they think it's all motivation and they think it's all rah. And as a very disciplined, driven guy, right? You're on your third or fourth time doing 75 hard. You're an animal, Jim.
6, by the way.
6, you're an absolute animal. I went for 2 and I thought I was going to die of a heart attack, but you're driven. I'm driven. But sometimes we need to fill our tank. So we're going to have some of that motivation there. Nick is somebody who was born with a very rare disease. I hope I don't misquote this, but I think there was only 9 others at the time when he was born who had this. And I think they all I think they all passed away pretty quickly after they were born. Mm-hmm. And what that guy has been able to accomplish is amazing. And if you can't get motivated from what he tells you and watching him on stage, I don't know what's going to motivate you. But I wanted to put a bigger emphasis on relationships and networking and actionable items that everybody can leave that and implement into their lives and into their business. I'm going to be very raw and very vulnerable in my speech. It's going to be a 3-part speech. But the middle and back end of the speech, I'm going to tell people exactly how I built this podcast and how I'm on your podcast today. I don't know if you remember this, Jim, but I got into the Lion's Den probably 2 years ago, and you were in there hustling. You were offering help, and I said, I'm going to take this guy up on it. Seems like he's got a good network. He seems like he's done well for himself. And we had a conversation, and I was just a guy in finance that didn't know much about social media or podcasting or any of this stuff. And I'm here today talking to you 2 years later because of how I built that digital infrastructure.
Yeah.
If we go and build a retail shop in your town, we got to erect a building. We got to build out the inside. We got to put cash registers in there and shelves. It's no different online. You got to erect a digital infrastructure. And a lot of times that can seem overwhelming. If I can wrap my head around it, anybody can wrap their head around it. So I'm going to put a big emphasis, at least in my speech, to really give you actionable items to walk away with and implement in your business. I'm coaching myself right now, and I don't want to give myself a plug, but I've watched kids like Trevor West, I've referenced earlier. I've watched him go from $50,000 a year in trucking till he'll make $500,000 a year in real estate this year. And he'll be flipping 2 of his own properties. That kid's life changed. His father was a meth head, truck driver. He didn't want to walk in the same footsteps. So what I've done, I've also been able to duplicate it. So I know for a fact you're going to walk away with some serious value if you walk away and take action.
I want to touch on a couple quick things before we get too much further, and then please continue on. First of all, you talk about the 2 years of time in between, meeting on Lion's Den, and here we are today. Now I'm all in on heading out to your event. You're putting together a great deal. You're all in on supporting me coming out with your resources, which is amazing. I think too often people feel like I need it right now. I think that there's a time and a place, and things come together organically, whether that's right now or if it's 2 years later. You can't just force. I think that there's a vibration in our communities that allow us to fit in at the right time. I love that this is what's happening between you and I right now, because it feels a lot more authentic to me. It doesn't feel forced. It feels organic from where I'm at, maybe from where you're at and what you're putting on. And here we are collectively. So my message about that is, don't think it has to happen right now for you to find an opportunity. Sometimes takes a little bit of time to put it all together, right?
You couldn't be more spot on. And again, something with that ADHD, man, I can be impatient. And I learned over the years, even in a transaction in the finance space, this guy may not need your services or want them or have the time right now to pay attention to you. But if you build a relationship with him and you just keep showing up and you keep making plays, at some point, that guy's going to transact business with you. And that's something I learned. And I knew that in this space. And I'm still nobody. And I still haven't done anything big, right? And I still have to remind myself on a monthly basis, sometimes weekly basis, Ryan, keep showing up, keep making plays. Things will work out for you in the right time. Well, and the big guy upstairs knows that.
That's right. He opens that door when he's ready for you to go through it. You just got to go through it when it's open, right? And by the way, we have touched base back and forth on social media. We know one another's there. It felt like the timing was right, and here we are. So patience plays a huge role in our success. And we have to understand that that's part of the success. The other thing I wanted to touch on real briefly, and this is a little bit of forecasting what our future looks like. You talk about mentoring this young man that was a truck driver. Now he's making good money in your industry. If the country goes the way they talk about, where trucking is going to be obsolete as being driven by humans.
Yep.
What a great way for him to transition out of that into something that he can utilize his skill or his desire and motivation through the tools that you're giving. And by the way, I want you to toot your own horn, because you're bringing value to others. You're reaching back and bringing others up at a time where people like this truck driver, they're going to need alternatives,
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, Jim, I get chills when you say that, man. And I'm doing that for 10 Trevors right now, 10 of them. And that's, going back to the event briefly, that's the stuff I want to leave with people. I am watching it be duplicated by 10 other personalities that aren't mine. And I know that anybody can do that. Anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we talked about yourself on stage and kind of your 3-part speech. Nick, you've got Keaton there. What do we expect here from Keaton? If people don't know who Keaton is, give us a little quick blip on him.
Keaton is, and one last thing too, that the third part I want to put an emphasis on for the event is networking.
Yeah.
Networking is something that is extremely important. We met through virtually networking, but to get to shake somebody's hand, look them in the eye, feel their vibration, understand who they are, give them a hug, slap their hand. I think that's kind of becoming a lost art because of social media. It's a powerful thing. It's helped us connect, right?
Yeah.
But getting out there, and I'm going to be on the mic Friday night saying, hey, almost like a speed dating. Move, Jim, you've been hanging out over there too long. Move, next guy. But your question on Keaton.
Yeah, and by the way, Ryan, that's exactly why I'm coming out. I've been holed up in Montana. It's time for me to get back out and shake some hands. And I haven't been on the East Coast since really launching some of my brands out there, my alcohol brands. So I'm looking forward to shaking some hands. And I hope you're on stage going, hey, time to move, right?
I am.
1 minute drill, move on.
I'm going to do that because relationships is what got me to where I am today. Yeah. Statistically, I should not be in the position that I am, but I was because I had a really, really good ability to read a room and connect people. Yeah. And relationship capital, Mark Evans talks about it all the time. Shout out to Mark Evans. It's everything. But Keaton, let me tell you a little bit about Keaton. has a #1 show on Discovery called Diesel Brothers. I'm sure a lot of your guests have heard of that, especially on the West Coast.
All my off-road guys.
Yep. He's a big personality in the room. You can catch him dancing. He's got a really big smile. He brings a lot of energy. And I hired him for coaching myself.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first calls I had with him, being a prepared person I am, I got written down my revenues and my P&L and some of the marketing things I think I'm going to work on. And, you know, this guy has bought and sold 25 different businesses. And I think we're going to talk about something like that. First thing, gets right on the call. He goes, "How's your marriage?" I was like, "What?" I'm like, I was totally like taken off guard. I was like, it's good. I think it's good. He goes, "Improve your marriage by 10% over the next 12 months. And that will improve your pocket." And I forget the percentage he said it was, by X. And I was like, and then he went into the whole thing on why it's so important for us to put an emphasis on that marriage. And I have 2 beautiful children. And at times as a business owner, an entrepreneur, we're chasing down that big goal, right? We're dreamers. That's what we're going to do. But we got to remember that our health matters and our family is the most important thing. I say it on my podcast all the time. I care about 3 things: financial freedom, my family, and my country. And those are the 3 things. And I prioritize family over everything. And at times, I think you need a gentle reminder from people like Keaton. So
that's awesome.
That's how our relationship started. And he got me to start thinking bigger. Keaton is a big thinker. And, you know, he's got text conversations with guys like Jordan Peterson and Tony Robbins. And I was hanging out in his house with Ed Milet. Him and Ed are friends. Ed actually referenced at his event that Keaton's the next Ed. Like he said that in front of Sean Whalen and Ryan Stewman and Rob and all these other guys. He was like, "I think you have it if you want it, Keaton. I think you have it in your heart, and I think you have the skill set." So he's going to come bring a lot of power, a lot of energy, and talk about some of those things like marriage and business and how they should be harmoniously connected. And I think people will really walk away having a greater appreciation for him.
It's interesting. You know, we host a Monday night call for our Young Entrepreneur Syndicate for the last 12 plus months in our membership. We talk about the soft, the soft essential skills, which are exactly what you're talking about, right? Our values, what's important to us. You know, I talk about my values: God first, family second, giving back third, health fourth, you know, fifth is having time to do all that shit. The last thing on my values is making money. But you know what? The money comes after you focus on those other things. What's interesting, and I love that that's going to be his topic, because people don't put a priority on it.
Nope.
You know, they don't feel like it's important. They feel like they're all good. But I bet if they ask their spouse or their kids, like, "Hey, are we good?" I bet they're probably saying, "Well, we could be better."
Yep. And my wife, and to be very fair, I'm an imperfect human. My wife would still say, you know, I have this big event going on and people are purchasing tickets. And we have limited seating. There's only 250 seats in the lecture hall. I did that on purpose. I didn't want this to be a 1,000-room thing. And I didn't even know if I could fill 1,000 seats. I wanted people to be connected, to be close. And I'm at dinner, out having some beer and pizza and salad with my family. And I was on the phone and my wife yelled at me. And she's right. She's like, you know, put the phone down, be present with the kids.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's important for us to put an emphasis on that. And it is a struggle when you're a person who's a go-getter and you're chasing down those dreams. But what does it matter if I die of a stroke tomorrow and I didn't spend any time with my family?
Yeah.
And Keaton puts a big emphasis. You know, people see him flying around in his helicopter with his daughters. He's not flying around with his buddies. He's flying around with his wife, Maddie, and his daughters. He's a really, really good dude. And I'm excited for people here on the East Coast to meet him in person.
I love that. You know, and what I like about this subject matter is that you've got influencers that are known for their financial success through their businesses that are making a priority with family. You know, as I mentioned earlier in the show, Sean Whalen and I are launching my platform through his program. You know, I had just exited my tequila company and was racing a lot of off-road. And I met Sean because he was going to buy my race truck. You know, we're talking about $250,000 vehicles here, and not anybody can pick up that. And I didn't know Sean, but I started following him. And what's interesting about that is one of the first videos I saw of Sean, he was riding horses with his daughter. And he's on this, this is in the
Was he
beginning
in a
when
suit? Was
what's
he in a
that?
suit? I think
No,
he was in a suit,
I
right?
don't no, I think he was just in Levi's or
Oh,
something.
maybe that was his wedding thing. I
I,
think I've seen him in a suit on a horse.
yeah, this was just like afternoon after school, but he flips the camera around. This was kind of new because I think this was 5 or 6 years ago. He goes, "Hey, I'm out here living my dream, riding horses with my daughter." And that moment, that particular video stimulated me to forget about all the financial success I'd had through my tequila exit, but really to put more of an emphasis on my family. And if you listen to my show with Sean and you're listening today, I thank him for that because it was that moment that I saw that video from an influencer. Even though I had financial success, I'd kind of forgotten how important some of these things are. I rearranged my whole future, bought this ranch in Montana so that I could raise my kids here. So when you tell me that Keaton's going to get on stage and talk about how important family is, and you tell me that you're going to give your story and how you got there and what your family means to you, you guys are hitting all cylinders,
Yeah, everything that I think you and I embody in every inch of our body, family, country, God, Keaton is a Mormon, the way that he follows his faith. It's his own model of it, but I know he believes in the big guy upstairs. Keaton lost his father at a young age. Keaton has done a missionary trip. Um, a big emphasis for me was I wanted people who believed in what I believe in. We have Ian Smith coming. I think Ian Smith is somebody that was obviously crushed by the media. A lot of people know this. Some people don't know this. Ian, unfortunately, was in a car accident and killed a young individual driving to work early one morning when he was, I think he was 20 years old. And he spent time in jail for that, a good amount of time. And he did his time. And he was actually on my podcast. But he was the gentleman who stood up to New Jersey and Governor Murphy to not shut down his gym. He just became a business owner 8 months prior. Him and his partner laid out every dollar they had. And he just looked at it as, man, people lost their lives for this country.
Yeah.
People literally lost their lives in these wars that they fought. Family members of his. How am I going to sit here and be, taking my freedom away, taking my ability to feed my family? And at the time, no one knew his wife was battling cancer. He never said that on one news thing. Nobody knew that. That's how strong of a man he is. And he said, if I got to sacrifice that they're fining me, if I got to sacrifice that they're going to take my gym away, this is a sacrifice I'm worth doing. I'm worth putting out there, and I'm willing to do the work. And so he's a guy that's coming. He'll be speaking as well. And what I discovered about him, again, on social media, seeing somebody on Fox News for 3 minutes, it doesn't allow you to get to know somebody. Ian is a very intelligent person, and he is very wise with his words. He's not going to get on stage and start bashing Biden and talking crazy. I think he's going to give you guys a really, really good speech. So again, talking about freedom, family, God, these are the people that I wanted at my event, and they're going to bring a lot of value to people in all different ways.
Ryan, that's awesome. And I love Ian for his strength and fortitude. I jumped on school board out here a couple of years ago to play my part. My kids don't even go to that school. They go to private school. And by the way, I got hammered like Ian on a different level. They didn't have me on Fox yet. But yeah, I think we all need to step up and do our part. And I'm looking forward to seeing him speak, hopefully meeting him in person and spend some time with him, because we need people like that in this country. So thank you for putting the event together. I could probably talk to you for a couple more hours. We already hit on a few topics, but we'll wrap it up here, because I think really what I'd like to see people do is look into your event, get a ticket, make the investment. I don't care where you're coming from. I'm coming from Montana. Let me tell you, rural Montana to New York City is not an easy trip. Actually, it was easy to get there. They don't want to send me back home, man. They were trying to get me here in 2 days.
We want to keep you. We need some freedom fighters here in Jersey. We need someone to fight back with me.
Right on. Well, look, I hope people will make the investment to get out there. If you're not local, book a flight, man. This event is happening for the right reasons. You just heard it on the show, the reasons why these people are there and what they're speaking on. It could change your life. A couple grand could change the trajectory of your entire life if you let it. So Ryan, thanks for putting on the event. Thanks for having me out there. And I look forward to spending some time with you in person. This 2-year back and forth virtually has got to go. So let's do the real thing.
Jim, thanks for having me on. Thank you for allowing me to tell my story on your show and promote it. I think having guys like you there is extremely important. You can, lend an ear or some wisdom to a guy in the room that was like myself at 19 and change that person's life. And even yourself, there could be someone in that room that changes something for you big time financially, or says something to you, just like Sean's thing on the horse changed the way that you thought. Yeah. We're all always learning and evolving. And I promise if you make the investment in me and Keaton and the crew, I'm going to make sure you walk away with value, at least one thing.
Well, we're never too old to learn. Even at 55, I'm still learning a lot. And by the way, God gave us our health for a reason. It's not to sit back and pretend like we're retired because you're going to fill your time up with bullshit. So let's figure out how we can turn around and lend a hand to those people behind us. Events like this will do that. If you're listening to the show and you don't have anything to write with, you can find Ryan on Instagram at Ryan Robbins, Robbins, Ryan D Robbins, right? Ryan D Robbins. Yeah. That's his Instagram. I'll put this in the show notes. I'll put your links in the show notes, and you can go back to that and find how you can get involved with this event or more about Ryan and his podcast. So Ryan, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you being here today.
Jim, thank you again, and have a great Saturday, man.
Thank you for listening to today's show. It is my pleasure and honor to interview all of the guests that have been on the Answer is Yes podcast. If you have enjoyed the show, please go on iTunes and subscribe, give a rating, or simply tell a friend about the show. We also believe in the message of our guests and the positive influence of their stories. As my own mentor and coach, David Meltzer, has taught me, spend some time every day thinking and writing about the things in your own life that you have more than enough of. You will find out how blessed we really are. Please visit my website, live.lifedriven.com, for the latest updates about me and what I'm doing. Plus, I post a monthly blog about the many topics on this show. This podcast can also be found there. As I learned early on in life, what you believe is what you will achieve. Thanks, Mark Victor Hansen, and thank you, and have a great week.